Welcome to Living the Spiral. This is a place to slow down, take a breath, and listen to the rhythms moving through your life. Here we explore astrology, human design, the I Ching, and elemental ancestral wheels of the year from cultures around the world. These are old maps and living languages that help us sense where we are in time, what is asking to unfold, and how we belong to something far larger than any single moment. In each episode, we trace patterns in the sky and in the body. We weave myth with lived experience, intuition with practice, and the personal with the collective. Living the Spiral is about learning how to move with change instead of pushing against it, about meeting transitions with curiosity, integrating polarities, and remembering that every season carries its own powerful wisdom. When you begin to listen to the cycles, life starts to feel more connected, more meaningful, and more alive. I'm your host, Alison Dale, and this is Living the Spiral podcast. My guest today here on Living the Spiral is someone whose work I find genuinely hard to put in a box, and I mean that as the highest compliment. She is a medicine woman, a storyteller, and what she calls a cosmic slut. She's the founder of Minka Brooklyn, a collectively run healing space in New York, and Minka Mystery School. She writes field notes from the Inbetween on Substack. She moves between Japan, New York, and Los Angeles, and she has devoted her life to the study of mysticism, liberation, and the erotic. Her full ceremonial name is Aki Hirata Quetzalyolotzin Jewel Moon. Aki, welcome to Living the Spiral. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me today, Alison. It's such a pleasure. It's kind of funny to be hearing cosmic slut from somebody else's mouth.
Is that a new one for you?
It's a new one for me. Yes, it's my post-divorce identity.
I couldn't resist putting it in there. I would like to adopt that as my moniker as well. Cosmic slut. I mean, there's nothing better.
Yes, yeah. That's really all what we are aspiring to, in my opinion.
Absolutely.
We look at it correctly.
Yeah, so let's start there. I would love if you could explain to me what it is that you are excited about right now when it comes to your cosmic sluthood.
So, this is an identity that kind of came about after I got divorced the second time, I should say. What's really interesting is that I was married for 25 years. For about 15 years of that marriage, I thought I was asexual. I did not have urge to have sex with my husband. And we were in monogamous relationship, and I didn't see a problem in it either. It wasn't like something was missing from my life. I was like, oh, well, maybe it's just who I am now. And as I got divorced, what I have come to understand in the process of getting divorced, because I think any change is a threshold what we go through. It's a portal, and it's a pathway for learning something deeper about ourselves, right? So in that process, what I have committed to was that I so wanted to love, unequivocally love. And that's really my mission in life. And that's, funny enough, that's what I committed to when I got divorced or when I was getting divorced. Yeah. But how that came about was my ex-husband's challenge in accepting how I did not see differentiation between different kind of loves, that I did not, quote unquote, prioritize our love over every other love that I had. I was in fully non-monogamous relationship with my ex-husband. However, I was equally in love with all of my friends, all of my colleagues, all the people that I meet. I just was always in love, and I really am. So that's what I have decided. That's who I'm going to be. And that's what I'm going to embrace. And just even the other day, I was talking to my friend. I just broke up with my boyfriend about 2 months ago. And soon after, I met this another person. It's long distance, but I was saying like, oh my God, I'm in love again. And, I have totally embraced this side of me that I just so easily fall in love. And I really love that about myself. And she was like, well, I bet you did not know that about yourself. I was like, you know what? I always knew I was shameful that I fall in love so quickly. And right now, I'm just so good with it. I am being called to share what I find to be the most basic human right. We all are here wanting to be loved and truly love ourselves, but being mirrored in being loved. So I'm willing to do that with people who come into my life in all the different ways. And I'm asking others to do the same for me.
It's a
And that
reciprocity. Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And I think we live in a world where, the cringe culture thing is such a strange world to me. That's like, oh my God, you are just like so forward and it's so cringe. And it's like, who gives I don't know if I curse a lot, so let me just not do that. But
Oh, you can.
oh,
Yeah, I think you're fine.
who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? Because I only get to live as who I am once. And I'm so tired of all of us trying to pretend that we shouldn't be fully alive. We live in such a death culture that anything that has something to do with being fully alive is ashamed in a way.
Yeah, I feel you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that. I'm done doing that. I don't want to do that. I want to tell people not to do that.
Spread the word.
Yeah, that's that's the root of cosmic sluthood to me. It just, I am so hopelessly in love with being alive, being in a process of alive, and other humans and other things. Or I don't know, the rock and a tree and a river,
Yes.
all the things.
The animistic love, the agape love, all the different types of, yeah, there is no differentiation, and just allowing that kind of frequency to come from you. I feel it. I feel it. I haven't known you for too long, but I feel that coming from you, and it's a
Well,
beautiful
thank
thing.
you.
You
Thank
know,
you. That's a compliment.
yeah. What the
You
world
see,
needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's
oh,
just too little of. I feel like
yeah.
somebody's got to do a remix of that song. When you're speaking about love, you do so many things in the world. You have so many different ways that you engage with the unseen and with the mystical and with other humans. And I'm curious how it is that you bring this love that's overflowing from you at this moment, consciously and intentionally, into the different work that you're doing and what's alive for you right now.
It's becoming harder and harder to talk about what's work and what's not work these days. Part of my process is, I call it embodied spirituality, and I'm pretty sure many of us do this to a degree, but my process really is to just fully live and make that an offering. So whether it's me speaking on the phone with someone, or whether it's teaching a class, whether I am writing, my commitment is to fully understand what I feel like, not as a feeling like an emotion, but what I feel like as a felt sense, as an essence of who I am, and do everything from that place. Yes, it can look like writing a Substack article. It can look like creating a new course. It can look like doing trainings, or it can look like making dinner with my kids and just laughing hysterically the whole time. Because what I offer to the world, the scale of it, I'm human. So I'm definitely, wanting more people to come to my class, to come do sessions with me and stuff like that. Sure, I am. But in a gut level kind of way, it doesn't matter. Me having dinner with my kids, just two of them, and laughing and having this frequency of pure joy and connection is just as important as me teaching the class, because it is a frequency that I'm choosing to exist in, and we get to transmute different things as we move through process and having conversations. So yeah, sorry to be meta, and that's what comes. It's just been so meta these days for me. Try to get details out of me can be a little bit challenge for you.
I don't need the details. The essence is why we're here. And
Okay.
it's interesting that you say that. I mean, having that laughter with your children or having a phone call or just any simple mundane day-to-day thing, if you're bringing the same energy to that as you would be to something that could be a definition of success from the outer world, I feel like that is where we're all actually trying to head, and where we all have a desire to be a little bit more present in our daily lives rather than the weekend warrior of, oh, I did this big thing and now finally someday off in the future I can have some time with my children, and then they're grown by the time you get there, right? And so I do think that that is a universal desire, whether we're willing to vocalize it or not, to be in that present space. I've been asking people about their definition of magic as we're in this magicians series that I'm doing here, and bringing in people who I see the sparkle and I see some magic. And so I'm just curious what your definition of magic is. It feels related to what you were just talking about as far as the humanness of being in the moment.
I'm gonna go meta again.
Go, please bring it.
As soon as you ask this question this morning, I was like, oh, because everything is evolving, right? And the first thing that in my head was that, oh, of course, to be fully human. We live in a particular iteration of the world in our lifetimes because we are tasked to do certain things, I think, or look at things deeply or orient ourselves differently. We are living times such as this. And each and every day, I think this feeling deepens within me that we are being asked to be fully human. And this really is a term that I'm borrowing from Mary Magdalene and all the scholars that studies her too. But I've been engaging with her work for several years now, but very strongly and intensely for last year. And magic is in being fully present to all the things that's available to us, visible, invisible, all the sides of us, all the tools that we have, and to be able to utilize it accordingly in order for us to co-create what we would like to see. And I think in that it is to be fully human, to have access to all sides of us.
To be fully human. It's beautiful. I never actually thought I would be living in a time where, I've seen so much sci-fi through my life, and there's always this threat of the robot overlords coming or the AI or something like that. I just honestly, as a younger person, never thought that the day would come when there would be so much discourse in my lifetime about humanity. And I think
Yeah.
right now we have Pluto in Aquarius for the next 20 years. And I think of Aquarius as a sign of humanity at large. Is what does it mean to be human? This question. And so the fact that you bring that up, to be human, and having that definition of that to be in relationship with a vast capacity to be in relationship with different realms, different modes of being. Is there anything you would add to that about what it really means to be human when we now have this alternate thing to be a machine or to be an AI? What does it mean to be human in the face of the times that we're living in?
When I think about being fully human, again, borrowing it from Mary Magdalene, it is to be fully human and fully divine at the same time. It is in the flesh. And to be in the body is to know that we are going to die. And to be divine is to know that we are eternal. And to live within this binary of the extreme, that I'm temporary and then I'm also eternal, and be able to situate ourselves through that, and being in the practice of engaging that both of those things can be true at the same time. And, I'm teaching in this container called Consciousness of Radical Equity. And in that, I teach a module called Demystifying Energy. And as I was thinking about how to teach what I wanted to teach this year, I thought this was a common thought, but I was told that it isn't. This conundrum of connection and separation and being in the body and being as a spirit. I think what we are doing is to live this drama of love returning. I look at Big Bang as the original trauma of all beings on this planet or in this universe. That we were this one unit, that everything existed as this one thing. It's one stable, solid mass. And that because of the dream that they wanted to have experience, they wanted to have life being experienced, then we have Big Bang and we separate it from one another. And while we love having life, we yearn to come back to that oneness. And I think when I think of magic, thinking about being human, I think of that dance of understanding what is a good balance of yearning to connect while having individual experience. When we start to look into the invisible, that becomes richer. Because when we only see the tangible, we only see the separation. And to understand the true meaning of connection, the interconnectedness, we have to understand the invisible.
Yes, I agree with that so fully. And a lot of times I've heard your work described as collective liberation focused or decolonial spirituality. And both of those words to me feel like when I read those or when I hear those words, it really does feel like what you're talking about, from division back to unity. I feel like in order to colonize, you have to first divide and conquer, that whole idea. And that's such a big part of the colonial mindset, is that once you pick things apart and separate them out, then you can take them for your own or divide them up in that way. And so I'm curious about how those words of decolonization, of liberation for the collective tie into what you're talking about the unity and coming back together.
Yeah, I think these are big words, right?
Yeah.
And words are interesting because words can give us descriptions, but words can also create separation. So my desire is and this is my desire, I don't think I'm always successful, but my desire is to use language in a way that we can bring about more understanding and more connection. And for me, those two things are really about connection. Liberation, as far as I know, is the truest desire for all human beings. That we do want to feel free in being who we are. And if we are assigned to be in this lifetime, whatever that means, as an essence, not as who we are as a production value, but as who we are as the one particular fragment of the whole that is trying to express itself. And that freedom is not the type of freedom of, well, I'll do whatever I would like and I have no responsibility. It's that type of freedom that is so rooted in a sense of who we are and all that come with, and that would be accountability and responsibility too. And that no matter who I speak to, I don't know anyone who doesn't want that.
Yeah.
And that is the work of, and many sages spoke about this, right? This is why people dive into self-development or spirituality or contemplation. So I'm just using this fancy word, but I think it's really what we are all doing if we were engaged in any kind of spiritual practice or healing practice. And maybe the rebel in me, the reason why I use that word is because a lot of the time, the wellness and spirituality these days are not framed as that. And maybe it's the whole idea of cringe too, right? Oh, no, that's too grand. That's too grand. We shouldn't talk about that. Even if we don't get there, I think it's important for us to name what we desire.
Yeah.
And that's really the thing about love. We have to claim it first. Like we have to claim it first. And no one wants to claim it first because we are afraid to be rejected or we are afraid to be told something. When I call it liberation and all that, I guess it's part of my fuck it. I want it. Fuck it, I want it. So why not say it? Because that's what we're trying to do anyway. Why do we hide it? So that's probably the reason behind I use these words, knowing that it is for everybody, but I want to claim it. And same thing for decolonial processes. One of my great friends, Lindsay Fong Leroy, was giving this lecture and I was listening, and she talked about decoloniality and colonization. And we live in a perpetual state of coloniality. If I were to root myself in claiming that's what I want, which is a medicine of liberation, then understanding coloniality and moving away from, which is the decolonial process, has to be at a center of any healing or spiritual practice. Because if we were to understand the love, the freedom is rooted in understanding the true meaning of interconnectedness and oneness, colonialism is the process. Colonialism and patriarchy and white supremacy and all of that is the process of creating more and more separation. Then we have to understand that is the complete opposite of doing spiritual practice. And if we know that we are living in a world where that is the normal operating system, then we have to remember that is something that we are undoing as we do healing and as we do spiritual practice. So to me, I'm using these words and it sounds so big, but it's a simple process. It's just being human. It's just allowing ourselves to be human. But we like fancy words sometimes.
Yes. I mean, I do think that these words sometimes can feel a little bit intellectual, or you hear them and it sounds like a discourse that might happen at a university about, what does this actually mean? And so much nuance. And I love the simplicity that you're bringing to it. That's really just, is it about separation or is it about connection? And I'm curious how these modalities about liberation, about decolonialism actually show up in your practices and the work you do with other people, or the engagements that you have with other people beyond the theoretical. How does it come down into the body and into the spiritual realm as well?
So I have a lot of things in 8th house. So I have a very quick succession of life and death processes. As with that, I go through phases very quickly. I often tell people I'm the most consistently inconsistent person. I'm making a joke about it. I'm not inconsistent, but I know that I move through phases so quickly, people may think I'm inconsistent. So I'm prefacing it this way because right now in this phase, how I'm feeling into this is this idea of desire. That's also related to the phase of my life that's cosmic slut. It shows up in my teachings, it shows up in my talks, it shows up in my classrooms, like it shows up everywhere. But I am rooting in desire right now precisely because that this cemented when I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, Jenalyn Womanpig, amazing organizer. And she told me, sis, I'm having a hard time to dream. And that was heartbreaking to me because she is such an amazing creative. And I know her dream life, whether it's a waking dream or sleeping dream, is active, right? But she says, sis, I'm having such a hard time dreaming. And to me, that meant that we are losing capacity to tap into our subconscious desire. And that is the creative engine of anything in this world. How we create this world is through our subconscious and through our dreams and through our desire, claiming that we want it. And we are living at a time where things seem so impossible. And they are doing a great job convincing us that it's impossible, that we are forgetting to desire to dream.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the death of us. So in order for us to live in our aliveness, our humanness, we have to live in our desire. And because of that, because of the time we are living in, if you listen to this 5 years from now, I hope this is not relevant. But
Right.
because we are living this very particular time where death culture is so strong that it is on full display on all levels, I want us to desire. And I want to remind people to desire. I want us to remind ourselves to be fully human is to fully feel, with grief and rage and pleasure and beauty, all the things mixed. To try is to be human. To feel is to be human. And if we want to desire, then we have to feel. And we are so afraid to desire because we don't want to feel that feeling of being let down when we don't get it. But the thing is, that exercise of feeling that grief when we don't get what we want, that's still us claiming that we are human. So that means something. So for me, I just want us to desire fully. And if we don't get it, fuck it. We're just going to desire again.
Yeah. Grief and praise are one and the same. I had a friend who wrote a song about that, and I thought it was such a beautiful saying, because sometimes we're afraid to even praise something because we don't want to be let down. You don't want to give it too much. That's cringe too, right? To give anything too many accolades. I'm not a fan of the cringe either. I'm just, yeah, I feel like that it prohibits us from living into our fullness and praising something, desiring something with all of us. There is always that risk of loss or of rejection. And I think everyone has a undercurrent of fear with that for sure. And especially in our culture, in American culture anyway, I won't speak for how it feels in Japan where you are, but definitely here, there is so much of the puritanical culture that has been shaming desire from the inception of when this country was founded. I studied in Brazil when I was in college, and I remember meeting a lot of people there, elders, people that had lived in Brazil a very long time, indigenous people as well, and they pointed out to me the puritanical nature of America, which was fascinating as a young person to see from an outside perspective. They're like, all of your movies and all of your shows there's so much violence, but there's no sex. There's so much, you can see murders, you can see explosions, you can see all of this, the death culture that you're talking about, but you'll never see a boob, like it's just, and to me it always stuck in my mind as something that I might not have been able to see if I hadn't gone outside and looked back in to say, oh, there still is this lingering culture of shame surrounding desire. And so I'm curious if you have any insights or how you in your personal life attune to the desire in a way that can make it feel real and can be that agentic kind of actualizing force that it is.
Well, that's a big question.
It's not
You
easy.
know, reasons, right? Why make it easy? Come on, we just go all the way.
If we're going meta.
I really love that. And when you talked about the puritanical culture, immediately what came to me was what I wrote in Substack, I don't know when, but maybe like a month ago or so, about this idea of, I was writing about many things, but I got kind of charged up thinking about what's happening politically in Japan and this idea of return of right-wing politics. And it's not even return, actually. It's been planned for a long time. And it was brought up by a female prime minister currently. And how this patriarchal female is placed to be an agent to carry out this mission of patriarchy, and how Japan was not the way it is now, but we are very shameful about body and sex and desire. And my kid and I were talking yesterday, like, too much is shamed in Japan, like too loud, too risque, too this, too that. Oh, definitely not. And there's a story of Amano Uzume. She's a goddess. The story is that the creation god of Amano Terasu got into such a deep grief, and she withdrew herself in the cave, and the world went dark because Amano Terasu is a goddess of the sun, and gods did everything, but she wouldn't come out. As a last resort, the gods asked Amano Uzume to dance, but it's not like a dance you would expect from quote unquote Japanese stories. It's a dance where she would be naked, really. She would be showing her genitals, and gods got so excited. It was just such a party because of Amano Uzume's dance. It's called a thundering dance. Her steps would create thunders because it's so powerful. It's so loud. And because of this situation that's happening outside of the cave, Amano Terasu had to peek out the cave to see what the heck is going on. I'm not out there. The sun is gone. Why is everybody having fun? And that's how they brought the sun back. But we very often don't talk about Amano Uzume, as she was the last resort. And she's often talked about as, oh, well, little hush. She was there, but, we don't really talk about her.
Interesting.
And we live that here. And we live that here in a way that is represented as a low birth rate, right? People don't want to have sex. People don't want to date. People don't want to get married. So there is a real repercussion in the shaming of the desire. And I feel like living here in Japan, there is a particular flavor of it that I live. And I'm not necessarily fully integrated here because I live pretty much like a hermit here when I'm in Japan. In the US, I have a very public life because my work requires it, because my community is there. Here, I'm really a recluse. I'm very much a hermit here. So I'm often in more of a witnessing mode, observing mode. And what I'm noticing more and more is a very particular kind of culture. And it's different from death culture here, though. What I'm noticing is, well, it is a death culture in a way. It is a slow death of the essence of the culture.
How is it different if you're talking about death culture? Kind of what does that mean to you, and how is it different between the West and where
Right.
you are now?
Yeah. So as you said, American movies, we see people blown up, you see people dying, guns and shooting and all that stuff. Here, it's more subtle than that. And I think it has a lot to do with the colonial process that Japan go through. Japan is known as the place that was never colonized, right? Yes, we lost World War II. Yes, US came and co-created our constitution and whatnot. But we were, quote unquote, never being taken over. For me, we have been taken over in our mind and our spirit. And that's a slow death that people are going through. American culture or Western culture and Japanese culture, I wouldn't even say East Asian culture. I think Japanese culture in particular is the exact opposite, in my opinion, because we have such a yin-based culture here in Japan, where the Western culture is very much yang. And while we have that, we have been told in order for us to succeed, we have to perform based on this yang-based cultural understandings. Part of the reason I left Japan to live in the States for the past 30 years is really the confusion of, I don't understand what you are asking me to do here. Because without being said, I'm expected to be a certain way. But on a surface level, I'm told to be productive. I'm told to be outgoing. I'm told to be a go-getter. But no. That's not a thing that you're supposed to do. That's shameful. So I was just always, I don't know, maybe people do better with this, just so you know. Like, I think people navigate this perfectly fine. I just couldn't.
Like the incongruence between the two, the kind of disjointedness there.
It just did not make sense in my head. And I constantly had a migraine. And I knew if I stayed, I didn't think of it this way, but subconsciously speaking, I knew if I stayed, I would have probably died. I'm saying this to say, trigger warning, I come from a lineage of suicide. My grandmother tried. My mother died of it. And understanding that legacy in my family lineage, yeah, staying in Japan would have killed me. And I had to leave, right?
Yeah.
Thinking that the answer is in living my life as a yang cultural being. Because that was on surface being taught, right? And this ambiguity, this not being said, this culture of being reserved and all of that, just, I was like, no, I don't want to do it. I think it's inefficient. I don't want to do that. And, living in the States 30 years, what I notice about myself is that culture that's living in me. And that's what makes me who I am too, right? I am a blend of the two. So when I'm talking about the slow death, is a slow death of a particular kind of psyche that is rooted in culture, that people are not understanding what it means to be Japanese. And that's what's dying. And within that conundrum of not knowing how to be, if we don't know how to be, how do we connect?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you bring up colonization from a couple of different points of view. I mean, being in a country that has this claim of never being colonized by an outside force, but I think that leads to the question of what colonization really means. Does it have to be an outside force, or can it be something internal that ends up creeping in, like you're saying, from the sidelines to, like, what is it? Is colonization taking people away from their ability to connect with life? Would you say that that's at its core? Or
the classic, I'll butcher it, but classic dictionary kind of a definition of a colonization is a theft of resources by a more powerful country. That's what it is. And though, while it's still being done, most of our colonization process nowadays, to me, is in our psyche. And with that, there's no one on this planet that's not under the influence of colonization. One of my mentor, Milta Vega Cardona, she's my anti-racist mentor, but she talks about it. I mean, this relates to colonization too, that we don't need white people to do racism anymore. We don't need white people in the room to do racism anymore. And because we swim in this shit, we are swimming in the water of racism, patriarchy, and colonization. So of course, whatever we do will have the tinge of colonization, racism, and white supremacy. We can't help it. And, what I really want to normalize is to make it so that it's not shameful, because it is the condition we live in. How can we not? And if we are not shameful, we can tell on ourselves and we can catch ourselves much quicker. So when I'm talking about decolonial processes these days, I'm not sure this is going to lead to a bigger movement of land theft and the theft of resources, yes. But the action doesn't start as an action. Action always starts as a desire.
There it is.
Again, so if your desire is to colonize, if your desire is to die, if your desire is to bring more death, then yeah, that's the world we create. But that's what colonization does, that we are craving death.
To go back to what you were saying before about freedom and how everyone craves freedom at an individual level and craves liberation, I recently was listening to Richard Rudd, the founder of the Gene Keys, and who was talking about freedom being the gift of victimization. So they're in the same frequency where you have victimization and then you have freedom, and it's really just like two sides of the same coin, kind of flipping the script on that. And he was talking about freedom from versus freedom with, which I've kind of heard of this about power over versus power with is something that I've worked with quite a bit. But freedom, I hadn't really considered in that framework. And it really has been moving me lately to think about how the land of the free in the United States is kind of all about, well, we're free from something else. We're free from oppression, or free from something else. And even within that, there's a sense of divisiveness and division in that freedom. And it's almost like what you were talking about earlier with that collective desire for liberation. It's more about this freedom to be with ourselves as we truly are, and also freedom to be with the collective as a non-fragmented entity. So I've really been kind of pondering this idea of what freedom even really means, because we use it so much. But I do think that there's different tracks you can take that.
And like words like freedom and love, and I think those are the things that we all want, right? Really. And in the name of that, though, there are folks who would see their own convenience as the freedom that is more important than the safety we can be in when all of us are free. And again, that comes from the fragmentation, right? The tribalism of thinking that actually they matter less, so I don't have to worry, while their misery and pain and suffering will certainly create misery and pain and suffering in the field and on the streets, really. I often talk about people like, why do you think about collective liberation is important? I was like, because collective liberation is the only way we can truly be free. If I want my children to have free world, free life, then I need everybody to be free. I'm literally worried about my child being drafted as a parent of two penis and testes carrying beings. You know what I'm saying? And that's not freedom to me. If I make money, I can buy anything I want, probably. But that's not freedom when I have to worry about my child being drafted to go to war.
I know. It's the fact that's on the table right now is, yeah, we're definitely at this moment where I think sometimes it's hard to grasp the immensity of the moment we're in, and we see it from all sides. And I think it's so easy to go about our day to day and just kind of keep the blinders on a little bit as far as kind of like, all right, I'm going to do what I got to do and stay in my lane. But then there are larger cultural forces, like you said, even just being in a room that has the pervasive energy of racism, of colonization within that room without a person specifically being there. You know, you're someone who taps into different worlds and realms. I've done an Akashic Records reading with you, and you visit worlds that are beyond the tangible here. I'm curious if you see through this power of imagination, this power of naming desire, is that the pathway that you would say is the best way through this time that we're currently in? I know you don't have all the answers, but what is your gut feeling about how to navigate these really intense times that we find ourselves in at this moment?
Yeah, the short answer is yes. The short answer is yes. That's actually the only way we're going to get through it. To tap into our truest desire. Since 2020, I think I said this a few times, that this is a time of collective spiritual awakening. And spiritual awakening, while it's portrayed wildly differently in the Instagram world or social media world, spiritual awakening is a series of heartbreaks, because our heart has to break open in order for us to feel for others. So it is a process of awakening our empathy to the point that we can no longer see the differences between people, between different races, between different social groups, right? That's really the process of spiritual awakening. So for me, what is happening is that it's getting closer and closer home, meaning that first it's going to happen in Palestine, happens in Lebanon, happens in Iran, and then gets closer and closer. So even this idea of draft being coming, or draft being considered or enacted, is reminding us that if we are not willing to break our hearts open for those people who are farther away, it's going to come closer and closer, even when you think you have all the power to avoid it. And in the field of Akasha, I'm doing this challenge of doing 111 Akashic record reading, no one turn away for lack of funds, because I want to see when people start to tap into their desire, their clarity, their purpose, what changes. I can only do so much, right? I have like a human body. So 110, 111 before summer solstice felt like a doable number for me to be able to do. I don't know where I am with the number, but maybe I must be close to like halfway now. Let's see. If anybody wants it, please come. But in that, there is a thread, there is a through line in these readings. And that is, so this also connects with the desire too, but in that, what I have been hearing is a through line of many people being the cycle breakers of their family lineage, cycle breakers of their spiritual lineage. But those beings are carrying a tremendous amount of weight. They come with a lot of weight on their shoulders because they know it. They know that they're breaking this cycle. Yeah. And they are usually aware that's what they are doing, because they tend to be the black sheep of the family. They tend to be the one who do things the way that no one else does it. They're always being told that they're different or they are not understood. But somehow they have this inner desire that they have to do this. And with that, the reading I got, which I want all of those folks to remember, is that perceived weight of what we carry and the weight we carry are different. because we are feeling the resonance from many generations of your ancestral lineage, many generations of your spiritual lineage, many lifetimes, many past lives. The perceived weight of it is so immense, and it feels as though that we are moving through the muck. And the message from the Akasha in that was like, that's a perceived weight. You don't have to do all of that weight. What you do in this lifetime, the actual weight you are carrying from this lifetime, when you do that well, when you undo that well, all of that resonance in all of the lifetimes will disappear. But it's not to think that you're doing all of it. It's knowing that all are connected in this very particular lifetime. And if you break this one particular cycle, everything else will break.
Ooh, I love that. It's quantum. It's not like you're hitting a domino that's hitting another domino and you have to wait and just do the work for every step along the way. It's not a mechanical process, right? Yeah.
I think that makes us desire just a bit easier because we feel the stakes are the same. But I think most of us are feeling so much weight. Most of us who are living consciously are feeling a lot of weight.
Yeah.
And with that awareness, I feel that we can go about it a little bit easier. And I thought this was such a gift to see this through, because I was just seeing it in so many people. It could be that I get that kind of people, but I've actually been told that some other folks said that they are getting that too. Yeah. So for those folks, what I want us to remember, and I know it's you, I know it's me, that we just need to do this life well, and it'll all be taken care of. So then desire for that. You don't have to desire for your ancestors. You don't have to desire for the past lives you had. You have to desire for you. This is the body you are given right now. And to be in a body is a tremendous privilege.
Truly.
Even though it doesn't feel like it when we are living sometimes.
You know, the crick in the neck when you wake up and you slept on the pillow wrong. Like, come on, body. No, you're right. I mean, it is such a privilege. And to think about it as all of the convergences of all of these past and futures that can come together in a singular moment, and to return to the present and realize that every moment does matter, and that every moment we have a possibility of a new pathway forward. That does give a lot of, beyond hope. Hope can feel so light and fluffy sometimes, but it does give that deep power to being able to co-create, as you mentioned before, that reality with the universe. And you know, one thing I've noticed in my astrology readings, as well as just in the overculture in general, is the kind of transmutation of the word trauma. I feel like trauma became so popular to be a trauma-informed coach, and everyone was about the trauma and the capital T trauma and the little t trauma and all the different traumas. And I think that was really helpful to begin to excavate the fact that we all have traumas. They're not all equal weight necessarily, but we all have experiences that were too little, too late, or too much, too soon. These framings are really helpful. But I have been impressed that in the past year or so, or maybe even less, there's a shift away from trauma and into, okay, we've gone through that. We have a deeper understanding of the magnitude, but now it's kind of like, okay, what is the next step? How do we start working through that? That's not just navel gazing or continuing to unearth more and more, right?
Yeah. Now what, right? Now we know, so now what?
Yeah.
Because we were at a point, there were moments where we were really stand still because that was so strong. And I think a lot of times cancel culture comes from that too. Over focus on not creating harm, so we can't really name certain things, or we can't call some things in, or we can't speak on certain things, and that's also not helpful, you know. And to me, that is very much a example of white culture, white supremacist culture to me too, that the fragility that comes with it, right? That because I'm traumatized, because I have trauma, we all do, and some more than the other, because we have trauma that you better not touch my trauma. While on the surface level, we don't know. We don't know what kind of trauma we have. Each of us have. We all have trauma. And the expectation of everybody being able to see through our mind to make sure that no one gets hurt is, again, counter to aliveness. Because, again, we have to feel in order for us to be able to understand. And I'm certainly not saying to go and maliciously poke at somebody's trauma, right? But I'm talking about a culture where we stop living because we are afraid of getting hurt.
Mm-hmm.
That is in the same vein as I don't love because I'm afraid to grieve the loss of love. I mean, it's to love is to grieve at the end of the day, no matter what it is. Even if I were to stay with someone for the rest of my life, somebody has to die first.
Absolutely. Yeah. You
And
can't
grief
escape it.
Inevitable if we choose to love. And I think that is why loving is a brave act, because consciously speaking, and this is what I did with one of my love affairs early on after my cosmic slutness started, that I knew that I was falling in love with someone who's leaving in 2 weeks, leaving the country in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I asked myself, what do I do here? And that was when that came. I was like, oh, to love is to grieve at the end of the day. And I just happened to grieve it in 2 weeks. So I could say I'd rather not. So I'm not going to experience what love feels like with this person, or I would go and do it. And I did it. And I was so grateful. It was one of the most romantic and beautiful experiences I've ever had.
I'm so glad you did that too.
Yeah.
I think, because it opens up those places. It's through pain, it's through heartbreak, and it's through experiences that are so profound. It's this moving, shape-shifting kind of thing where, I've found myself referencing the crack is where the light gets in so many times, and I almost feel cliche about it at this point, but I do feel like that's where we're at right now. It's just like
is coming.
yeah. You can't put plaster around it. You can't prevent the cracks from happening. And so leaning into the cracks a little bit and seeing what juices that's there. I do agree with you that I think the next phase of human evolution is emotional awareness, and on a much larger scale, and shifting away from the mental being the only place where we're making decisions, and shifting to our body, to our heart, to our spleen, our solar plexus. I've been having conversations with my organs and with my fascia, and just being like, okay, I'm going to pay some reverence to you, because the brain is so, it's this top of the pyramid kind of situation where it's been given so much weight. And that's, again, I think a white supremacist type of invention, as well as just everything having a mechanistic kind of framework for it. And I know that many cultures throughout the globe have considered the heart to be the seat of intelligence, or have considered the liver to be a place where we are deeply connected to source. It's quite new to have just the mind be this place where we're giving attention. And so I appreciate the invitation to feel into desire, but sometimes that's still a mental thing of like, well, I have to now list my desires and decide what the desires are up here. And I really don't I think it's a complete reconfiguration of what part of our body we're listening to at this point.
Yeah, I'm listening to my arousal.
There, yeah.
It was funny. I was talking to my friend Fumiha, and she's an herbalist, and we were talking about aphrodisiacs, and she was saying like, aphrodisiac is not about sexuality, but it's about excitement towards life. It's just towards life. And I was like, oh yeah, because I'm lusty over life. It's that lustfulness of my being, right? I lust over having beautiful conversation with my friends. We are having platonic relationship, but I lust over, just as much as I lust over having sex with a lover. I lust over this idea of, having beautiful meal with my friends, or like I'm just, desire, if we were to connect it with our body, it's the arousal. And arousal gives us this like lustfulness in our body. It's this craving towards something. Obviously, this is not to be overtaken by those. But how often can we truly feel the lustful desire towards something that's good for us, beyond the idea that it has to relate to sex or sexual act?
Yeah, to allow that in, to just allow it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or be curious about it. Like, oh, that
Yeah.
feels really good. I think about if you have a really good orgasm, it doesn't just go away. It reverberates and it lingers with you for
Yeah.
days, and the same thing with any type of pleasurable activity that's truly based on what you want and having your needs met. I think it reverberates, and then that allows you to ripple that out into the world beyond yourself as
Yeah.
well. Yeah.
More sex magic in the world. Maybe that's what we need too.
Well, what kinds of things? The dinner with friends. There's a lot of things you've listed that are giving you that lust for life right now. Is there anything else you'd like to name that is really doing it for you at this moment in time?
Oh, of course, this new love, I'm totally lustful over it. We talk about it all the time because we actually never met. So we are doing this full-on romantic Bridgerton type of a thing over distance. We have never met. It's been like 2, and we are very lustful and we are extremely intimate emotionally. And I'm definitely lusting over that. It gives me life. And I am lusting over, it's going to sound so strange when I say it this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. I'm lusting over this juicy time that I'm having with my kids. I consider myself extremely blessed that I not only love my children, but I like my children. I like who they are as human beings. I am very lucky to know them. And I lust over our time together because it is really good time.
No. That makes my heart crack open a little bit just hearing that. I love that so much. I feel the same way. It's unbelievable, that type of relationship, just watching someone grow and interacting with their growth and them seeing you through your own growth. It's so powerful. Yeah.
Yeah. I feel very blessed.
That's beautiful.
Yeah. I'm definitely lusting over some of the new materials that I've been working with. I just created this based upon Lynn's teaching that was extremely important. I was definitely lusting over that and lusting over all of the being who came to just like pour their souls. It was just such a beautiful container where they were just all pouring all of themselves and tears and rage, and it was just so beautiful. And I was definitely lusting over that. And yeah, I'm lusting over my writing these days. I had such many years that I said that I would write, and so many of my friends are like, when are you gonna write? When are you gonna write? And I just started writing really for real. And I'm definitely lusting over.
Oh, that's awesome. I've been loving it. You can tell it bleeds through the words. I've been really, really enjoying reading your Substack. And yeah, I would love, before we wrap up here, if you could share with you mentioned the Akashic readings you're doing, as well as this writing that's new to you, just any way that people can find you and engage with you, because I really do consider you such a magical being that's bringing forward so much beauty into the world, as far as just the realness that you carry. And I would love to introduce more people out there who are listening to the ways to engage with you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Substack. A journal from Inbetween is where I'm writing from. That's a fairly new platform. So I am engaging with it with a bit more intention. And I have obviously the Instagram, that's Soulflower Medicine. The website is Soulflower Medicine as well. And I'm a founder of Minka Brooklyn. So minkabrooklyn.com is always where you can find a lot of the information about teachings and all that stuff. So that's where you can find me. And I'm about to come back to the States for 3 months for the summer. And I have various offerings in 3 different locations, one being in LA, another being in the Berkshires, another being in New York. So I'm having something in LA, which will be really focused on intuition and oracle cards. And I'm actually having a first teenager class called the Young Witches School, teaching young people about their intuition and accessing it through oracle cards and just really understanding what it means to be human from a young age. So they are not swayed by all these crazy algorithms.
So needed. That's beautiful.
Yeah, I'm really excited about it. I'm really, really, really excited about it. And then I'm going to Kripalu to teach with Chetna Sacred Erotic Reclamation Retreat, which is really going to be about desire. It's not about sexuality per se, but it's about our aliveness and arousal towards creation. So it's really all the things that we talked about. And then another beautiful one I'm really excited about is during Lionsgate portal, I am going to be doing a Usui and Earth Evolution Reiki training. Earth Evolution Reiki is something that my co-teacher and I co-channeled, actually. We didn't try to, it just came to us. It is related to the blue sapphire flame, which connects to Sirius. So giving Alliance portal time is really the alignment with the sun and earth and the Sirius. I'm really excited to have this training during this time. I have never done it, and I think it's going to be really interesting, important.
Ooh, so many juicy offerings you've got. This sounds like a beautiful summer. So much going on for all ages, all different types of connecting with intuition and desire, and of course, Sirius. Yes, the Lionsgate. That sounds, I might have to come up to Brooklyn for that one.
Come to Brooklyn. We teach Reiki from more of definitely decolonial, but also very much through teaching and honoring our intuitive and psychic nature. That oftentimes it's taught separately, but we teach it together, that it's natural part of us, that we are all intuitive, we are all psychic, and Reiki can be one of the way to gain more insight and understanding into that too. It makes us more aware how psychic and intuitive we are. It's not making us more intuitive or more psychic. It's just giving us awareness.
Opening the channel. Beautiful. Thank you so much again for being here. This has been such a pleasure to go deep into all of these big topics with you and into the metaverse together. So definitely look up Aki at Soulflower Medicine on Instagram and her website. Such a potent storyteller and visionary. I really appreciate your time, and I look forward to the next time we connect.
Thank you, Alison, for your time. It was really a pleasure, and thank you for having me.